Believe it or not, I was a super passive person before. I grew up in a very traditional Chinese family in which it was considered disrespectful to reason out. So I was trained to just listen and obey orders. Let me share with you a funny story that happened when I was still in grade 5. At that time, my mom and I went to buy a pair of white rubber shoes. After 3 tries, I noticed the scowling face of the sales lady. So when she asked me, "Is this okay?" I hurriedly said, "Yes." Then we went home. Then my mom got angry. You know why? It's because the rubber shoes turned out to be one size larger. So as a young professional, I often abstained during votation. It's only when I grew older that I gradually learned to be more assertive. So watch this video to know how to become a more assertive leader. Welcome to Adjusting Your Heart. I'm Doc AJ Chua, and in case it's your first time to watch our video, please click on the subscribe and like button, and also the notification button so that you will be informed whenever we upload a video on Friday afternoon. Have you ever felt that your needs and wants are being ignored? That hurts, right? But is it possible that it's because others do not know what your needs and wants are? Maybe you're the type of person that's passive, just like me before. We're too shy to speak up and communicate to people what we need, to the point that sometimes there are people who take advantage of us. And then sometimes there will be feelings of resentment, feelings of inferiority. So I hope that through this video, you learn how to be more assertive in 3 simple steps. So my first point is know when to speak up. Being assertive doesn't mean you have to fight for your rights all the time. That's more of the aggressive type of personality. Then you would also come across as being opinionated, demanding, entitled, and might hurt others in the process. And people might resent you also. Just like what happened in the recent weeks. We know that ex-President Trump, because of his remarks, it seems to have incited his supporters to storm the US Capitol, resulting to 4 people dying. So he was impeached. So that's aggression. I'm not pro or anti-Trump, but what I'm saying is that what I'm sharing now is not for us to be aggressive, but to be assertive. So know when to speak up. Another new phenomenon is the term Karen. I don't know if you know, right now, it refers to a white woman who uses her privilege to demand her own way at the expense of others. Look at what happened last year. There's a white woman named Amy Cooper. She was walking her dog in Central Park. But her dog was not on a leash. So there was a black American who approached her nicely and then told her that she needs to put a leash on the dog because that's the rule in Central Park. But when she refused, this African American started recording her, and then she got agitated, and then she said, "If you're not gonna stop recording, I'm gonna call 911 and I'm gonna tell them that there's an African American threatening my life." And that's what she did. And of course, everything was on video. By the time the police came, both of them were not there anymore. But to make the long story short, the African American guy, he had a sister who uploaded this on video. So it showed that Amy Cooper, of course, she went overboard in a way because she threatened this guy, and she was fired from her job because of it. So we have to know when to speak up, because it turned out that this African American guy, he is a Harvard educator, and he is a bird watcher. So, and now because of the name Karen, okay, became a very controversial one. People whose name is really Karen, sometimes they feel sad. Like one certain person named attorney Karen Sandler said that at first she felt bothered that how come my name is being applied so negatively? But she said it challenged her to use her Karen powers for good, to speak out for ignored or disadvantaged people who have more to lose by speaking up. And one person I'd like to specially mention in this video is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Every third Monday of January in the United States, it is a federal holiday. So for this year, it falls on January 18. For 11 years, from 1957 to 1968, he traveled over 6 million miles, spoke over 2,500 times. He wrote 5 books and numerous articles to help defend the rights of the Black Americans. He was awarded 5 honorary degrees, and he was even named Man of the Year by the Time magazine in 1963. And he was the youngest man to have received the Nobel Peace Prize at the age of 35. And he donated the prize money, the equivalent of which is 2.7 million pesos, for the furtherance of the civil rights movement. And then he directed the peaceful march of 250,000 people in Washington, D.C., and that's where he gave the speech, "I Have a Dream." Actually, he didn't need to do all of this. He got his doctorate degree from the Boston University. He was happily married to Coretta Scott with 4 children, 2 sons and 2 daughters. And he was a third-generation pastor because his grandfather and his father were all pastors. But because he chose to speak for others, you know what was the consequence for him? He was arrested 25 times. He was assaulted 4 times. But he chose to do it because he said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. And sadly, he was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee on April 4, 1968. He was there to lead a protest march with striking garbage workers. And right now we know that there's a movement or organization called the Black Lives Matter. Yes, it's true that Black Lives Matter, just like any other ethnicity. But I hope that they would employ non-violent means, just like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So let's pray for wisdom for when to speak up. James chapter 1 verse 5 says, "If any one of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, and God would give it to him liberally." And then we have to check our motive. Why do we want to speak up? Then we have to think of the possible outcomes. Of course, all of us want to have a happy ending, that when we speak up regarding our rights, the other person will understand and give in to our requests. But remember, that person might also get offended and get angry. It might cause strain in the relationship, and you might also get laid off if you're talking to a boss. So think about it first. And then right timing is also very, very important. You don't talk to someone who's very busy, who's tired, or who's hungry, or in a bad mood. So maybe you could choose a timing like there's a win, like you got high grades when you're gonna talk to a parent, or you were able to close a big deal. Then you can approach the boss for something. And of course, we have to do everything in private, one-on-one. You don't do it in public. Know when to speak up, that's the first. Second is know who to talk to. Please refrain from ranting in social media. You can PM your complaints nicely. Like for instance, when we bought a bed sheet and then they gave us the wrong color, the wrong size. So I nicely requested them to be able to change it, and they agreed. And I'm very happy for their good service for a good Asia bed sheets. Or maybe when you filed your complaint, it was ignored for many times. Yeah, you can resort to social media, but please, you do it tactfully, no cursing, okay? And it's also better to, when we have our angst, that we tell it to our trusted friends instead. And when you really want to talk to someone, talk to the person involved directly. But keep in mind that seniority and someone's position counts. Like, we have to think, if the person that you're going to talk to is a parent or somebody older, let's say the supervisor, the boss, you have to think about that. What would be the possible consequences? And if that person you think might not be very open-minded or a little stubborn, it's no use. Maybe it's either you don't talk about it, or you might ask for a mediator. Someone who is objective, who won't take sides, and of course somebody that the other person respects also and will listen to. For instance, if your child was bullied in school, there are proper protocols. You just don't go directly to the principal, even if the principal is your best friend or your relative. First step would be to talk to the teacher who's in charge, the homeroom teacher. And after that, maybe talk to the guidance counselor, to the supervisor. And of course, if things get resolved with the teacher, you don't even need to talk to the guidance counselor or to the supervisor. But you go up the ranks once things are not resolved. And the last, of course, would be the principal. Or let's say problems at work. When you have some problems or you want some requests, the first person you have to talk to would be, let's say, your supervisor. Do not bypass him and go by going directly to the manager. Or if problems at home, then you talk. If you have some problems with your in-laws, then talk to your spouse first and do not go directly and confront your in-laws. Remember, in Asia, saving one's face is very important. And lastly, know how to communicate your needs tactfully. The right words, the tone of voice, and the body language. Keep note of those. Let's say your hands should not be on your waist when talking to them. Be respectful. Then request, do not demand. Especially when we're talking to people who are much older. And you can also think of the possible objections and include the answers in your speech. For instance, when I was growing up, my parents were very strict. They wouldn't allow me to go on outings unless my good friend Shirley's mom, look at this beautiful picture with Shirley and her mom, will be there. So most of the time when I ask my mom, can I go out with my high school friends? We're going for a movie or an outing. The answer is automatic, no. So I eventually learned to be more assertive, because usually it's not only no. Then sometimes she would, before saying no, she would say, with the voice a little angry, like, who are you going with? What are you gonna do? What time will you be coming home? Who's gonna drive you home? Okay, so she'll be asking a lot of questions. Sometimes because she asks a lot of questions and I feel that I'm interrogated, I also get irritated. So as I grew older, I became wiser. So when I approached my mom, I already knew what are the questions that she will ask me. So I already answered them in my request. Like, Mom, can I go out with Shirley and some of my female friends? Okay, we're going to eat at, let's say, McDonald's. That will be on Saturday. From 3 to 5, I'll be home by, let's say, 6 p.m. And I will come home alone. Or let's say, Shirley can drive me home. Something like that. So all in one breath, so that my mom won't have any objections. So that's how I gradually also earned my freedom. But of course, I observe the curfew hours. I don't lie. And my mom knew that when I'm with my friends, we don't do anything that would harm us or cause her any embarrassment. Let's say if it's in a work setting, you want to talk to the boss for a raise or a promotion because it's been promised to you but it hasn't materialized. So you use the sandwich style that I taught you before. Positive, negative, positive. So the positive would, you could start with, boss, I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to work in this company. I really learned a lot from you. And boss, I just like to follow up on your promise that you're gonna give me a promotion last June 2020. But actually I waited until now just to talk to you, and now it's January 2021. And during those times from July until December, these are my accomplishments. Then you wait for what the boss would say. In case, of course, the boss suddenly said, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Okay, good that you reminded me. Oh, thank God you got a promotion or a raise. But what if the boss said, oh, I'm sorry, actually I remembered, but because of the pandemic, business is really not good, and I don't think we can afford to give you a raise. You have two choices. One, of course, we have to be gracious, we have to be understanding, and just accept the no. Or another is to negotiate nicely, like, let's say if the promised raise is 10,000 pesos, then you say, okay, boss, I understand, but is it possible to give me maybe at least a little raise, even if it's not 10,000? So then you bargain with the boss, okay, and see what he says. But the most important thing is that you were able to share your thoughts. And what about if it's a bad service? My friends, do not complain about every bad service that you encounter. I don't do that. I'm gonna give you an example. Look at these two pictures. The first picture is the cake I wanted to order, and the picture that came from the big shop. It's very nice, right? Because it's half mango cheesecake and half blueberry cheesecake. But when the cake arrived, I was shocked and so disappointed to see that the cheesecake has melted. When in fact, when I ordered for the courier, I already instructed that we need an insulation bag, something like that. So, of course, at first I didn't know whose fault it is. Is it from the one baking? So I nicely PM'd them with the pictures, and she said, actually, Mom, we took a picture beforehand, and she showed us. It was really nice. So which means the fault is with the messenger. I didn't do anything about it because if I complained directly, that person might lose his job. Right now it's the pandemic. I know it's not easy, so I just let him off the hook. But there was one time, like I like giving photo books, right, as gifts. And then look at what happened when this arrived. Okay, that's the cover. Imagine mo the photo book inside. That means it's crumpled or it's not that good. Okay, so and then I nicely wrote to Photo Book Philippines. I said I've been a customer for many years and I've always received things in good condition. This is the first time this arrived in this condition. And they said, oh, Mom, we changed courier and we're very sorry, and we'll replace it. And of course, I was happy because I did not ask for a replacement. I was just informing them so that they would provide better service in the future. So I just hope that we would be able to state our needs tactfully. And let's say if it's something like it's a big case wherein that you might want to sue somebody or somebody is suing you, if you ask me, try to settle things out of court. That way, we don't need to spend a lot of time, money and effort, and then undergo a lot of mental and emotional stress. I'd like to give thanks to God, my husband Hans, and our video editor David Wong, and to all of you, because we've reached the 40,000 milestone last week. For a small YouTuber like me, that's very encouraging. And of course, we'd also like to thank some of our viewers who gave us their comments, okay, or subscribed to us, like Carla Rizal Lee, KZ Aaron, Daniel J. Madden, Dr. Genevieve Wang, Helen Ching, who's Amon's mom, Joan Lois Tobias, Dr. Joseph Shao, Judy Ko, Juliet Go, Donna Munoz, Mayang Suon, Miralyn Lim, Robert Uikeng, Sherry Lynn, and Whimsy Hero. So our next episode will be how to become a more resilient you. So stay safe, everyone.